Everyone at school could hear the inner thoughts of the new girl from the New York social scene. Everyone except me. At the top student awards assembly, I had just accepted my certificate from the principal for ranking first in our grade. That's when a new girl, Chloe, sighed and shook her head. Should I expose her for cheating? The principal wants to send her to the state academic decathlon. If she comes in dead last, the whole school's ranking will tank. On the spot, the principal announced that my score was invalid. I lost my spot in the state competition and became an outcast. So when the class funds went missing, I was the first person they suspected. As my classmates hesitated, Chloe's thoughts swirled with manufactured conflict. It was definitely Ava Miller. Her family is low income. Stealing the money makes sense. Maybe I should just cover the loss myself. Hearing this, the class president snatched the $2,000 right out of my backpack. Money I desperately needed for my mom's surgery. I cried, I pleaded, but no one believed me. Without the money for the surgery, I had to skip school to work. I was followed by a couple of thugs. Just as I was about to call out to some classmates for help, Chloe's inner voice cut through the air again. She's obviously dating those guys. She's probably just trying to drag us into whatever weird game she's playing. So trashy. The students who were about to help turned and walked away without a second glance. In my panic to escape, I slipped and fell into the river. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the assembly, back at the moment I was being celebrated for ranking first in our grade. And this time, I could hear her thoughts perfectly. Today, at our morning assembly, we'd like to give special recognition to sophomore Ava Miller for placing first in this month's exams, leading the second-place student by a full 30 points. A roar of applause filled the auditorium. My heart pounded with excitement as I walked onto the stage. But a discordant voice sliced through the noise. I'm so jealous of Ava. She could just cheat her way to the top. I should have reported her during the exam. Should I expose her for cheating? The principal wants to send her to the state academic decathlon. If she comes in dead last, the whole school's ranking will tank. Ugh, maybe I should just let it go. I heard she's a scholarship kid. What if people accuse me of looking down on poor people? I just feel so bad for the principal. This is going to be a huge embarrassment for him and the school. The moment her thought finished, the applause died. Every single person in the auditorium, including the principal on stage with me, was staring at me with suspicion. I knew exactly where the voice was coming from. It was Chloe Sterling, the girl who had just transferred to our public high school from an elite prep school in New York City. The so-called Manhattan socialite, daughter of a billionaire and a famous ballerina. The strange thing was, I didn't see her lips move. Where was the sound coming from? As I stood there, confused, Chloe's voice echoed in my head again. I heard some officials from the school district are visiting today. They might even single out Ava for the state competition. When she fails, it won't just be the principal's reputation on the line, but the entire district's. Huh? Why did everyone stop clapping? I was just thinking to myself. I didn't actually say it out loud. It was her inner monologue. The principal's face shifted through a series of emotions before settling on a grim resolve. He strode toward me and snatched the certificate from my hands. I am announcing that Ava Miller cheated on her exam by using a crib sheet. Her results are null and void. In my past life, I couldn't hear Chloe's thoughts. I had no idea what was happening. But I was quick on my feet and immediately asked the principal to check the security footage from the testing hall. My conscience was clear. I had nothing to hide. But the footage, mysteriously, had been deleted. My homeroom teacher had to swear on his entire career just to give me a chance to retake the test. On the day of the retest, I ate some bad fruit and spent the entire exam running back and forth to the bathroom. I was so sick I could barely think, and my score was abysmal. It only confirmed the principal's belief that I had cheated to get first place. He gave my spot in the state competition to Chloe. This time, Reborn, I still couldn't think of a good way out. Even if I called the cops, the missing footage was still missing. What could I say? Whatever. I was done fighting it. In front of the entire school, I grabbed the microphone. The principal is right. I cheated to get first place. A wave of shock rippled through the students on the field. What the hell? She really cheated. She's got some nerve, admitting it like that. Does she think they won't expel her just because she's poor? So shameless. If I were her, I'd have already dropped out. Even Chloe looked stunned, as if she never expected me to just confess. As the murmurs grew louder, I spoke again. That's right. I cheated my way to first place for all 6 years of elementary school. I cheated my way to first place for all 3 years of middle school. And now I'm in high school, and I'm still cheating. 2 straight years of cheating my way to the top. I paused, scanning the crowd. So, I want you all to think about something. Why is it that all of you, studying so hard, still can't beat a cheater like me? I leaned into the microphone. Or is it that you just can't cheat as well as I can? A dead silence fell over the 3,000 students. They'd seen arrogant people before, but they'd never seen someone so brazenly own an accusation. Once the shock wore off, the field erupted. How can she be so shameless about cheating? Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Cheating once is one thing, but for 8 years straight? Are all the proctors blind? Seriously, Ava's grades have always been consistently high. It never looked like she was cheating. The principal was dumbfounded. He was new and didn't know the students well. He had heard Chloe's thoughts and, fearing embarrassment for the school, made a rash decision. I faced him, my voice devoid of any plea. For a cheating student like me to operate under your nose for 2 years straight, the proctors must bear an undeniable responsibility. How about this? You expel me, and you fire all those blind proctors. Let's see who dares to cheat after that. The principal didn't say a word, but the teachers who had proctored my exams couldn't stay silent. Ava Miller did not cheat. The students sitting near her all have lower scores. She'd have to be insane to copy from them. Exactly. And how do you cheat your way to a 30-point lead over second place? Principal, I think there must be some misunderstanding here. The principal's face went from red to white and back again. He regretted acting so hastily based on a student's inner voice. He tried to backtrack. We will discuss this matter again after I have reviewed the security footage. Just as it seemed I was off the hook, Chloe's thoughts rang out again. One idiot. Ava already destroyed the footage. He won't find anything. Besides, who says you have to copy off a classmate to cheat? If you have the right connections, you can buy the test questions in advance on student forums, then post them online for the answers. Forget a 680. You could get a perfect 750 that way. The principal's suspicious gaze landed on me once more. But this time, he was hesitant to jump to conclusions. Instead, he made an announcement that sent a wave of panic through the student body. All students will remain on the field. We are conducting a school-wide search for cell phones. I want to see who is bringing phones to school and buying test answers online. Anyone caught will be immediately expelled. Chloe's face went pale. The students erupted in protest. We believe Ava Miller didn't cheat. Don't search us, we don't have anything. Yeah, we never said she cheated, so why are we being punished? As one, the entire student body glared at Chloe. If it weren't for her, the principal would never have ordered a phone search. Chloe was trapped. She couldn't speak without revealing that she knew they could hear her thoughts. But if she stayed silent, she would become the most hated person in school. The principal sneered. You're high school students. You should be studying, not playing on your phones all day. The first thing I'll do is call your parents. The great hunt began. Teachers armed with metal-detecting wands swept over every student. Others took the wands into the empty classrooms. The dorms were hit the hardest. No corner was left unchecked. First period was canceled. The search yielded over 500 phones. The principal had a sliver of mercy. He had the students write their names on their phones, promising they could retrieve them upon graduation. But among those 500 phones, not a single one was mine. Before dismissing us, I offered the students an apologetic smile. Sorry to disappoint you guys. I can't even afford a smartphone. As the students dispersed, the principal stopped Chloe. Young lady, if you don't have concrete evidence in the future, please don't make baseless accusations. It's a very ugly habit. Chloe blinked with wide, innocent eyes. Principal, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything. How could I have accused anyone? You were the one who suddenly announced a student had cheated. The principal had no explanation for the psychic phenomenon. He could only swallow his frustration. After that incident, the students kept a wary distance from Chloe. When the principal went to check the security footage, he did find that it had been deliberately corrupted. But he no longer trusted Chloe's thoughts so easily. Instead, he organized another major exam on short notice. Having one grueling exam right after another drew complaints from many students. Chloe was frantic. Ava cheated. So why do we all have to retake the test? If anyone should be retested, it should be her and her alone. The exhausted students couldn't help but agree with her. But our homeroom teacher spoke up, his voice firm. Until this matter is fully investigated, Ava Miller is not a cheater. Please do not casually slander your classmate. And another thing, he continued, his eyes sweeping over the class. Did you think I didn't know you were bringing phones to school? I usually turn a blind eye. But I never imagined you'd go so far as to buy answers on a forum. If we were really investigating cheating, none of you would get away with it. Now, clear your desks. The exam starts in 30 minutes. Intimidated by his authority, the students reluctantly prepared their desks. Only Chloe remained, her face ashen. She made an excuse to go to the bathroom and returned just a minute before the test began, looking sick. Exams, exams, exams. The principal's favorite tool. There were some problems I could solve with my eyes closed. I finished my paper quickly and turned it in. After the English exam, I was napping at my desk during the lunch break when my homeroom teacher called me out into the hall. "Ava, your grandmother dropped off some fruit for you." In my past life, I'd eaten it without a second thought. I ended up with horrible food poisoning. My grandma was consumed with guilt. A vendor, eager to pack up for the day, was having a flash sale at the school gate, bright red apples for just $1 a pound. She thought she'd found a bargain and bought 10 pounds for me. She never imagined it would make me fail my exam and be branded a cheater. She fell into a deep depression and passed away not long after. Thinking back now, why would there be a sudden flash sale on apples right outside the school? I turned my head and met Chloe Sterling's expectant smile. In that instant, I knew who was behind it all. Snow White had her stepmother with a poison apple. I had Chloe Sterling with her clearance sale poison apples. Just as she was gleefully anticipating me taking a bite, I carried the bag of apples back into the classroom and started handing them out. "Hey everyone, my grandma bought these fresh apples from a stand outside. $1 a pound. Have one on me. Good luck on a math test this afternoon." Chloe was dumbstruck. She couldn't understand why I wasn't following the script. A second later, she recognized an opportunity to win people over. Her malicious thoughts flooded my mind. I just saw Ava washing those apples with water from the toilet. I can't believe she'd try to give the whole class diarrhea just to secure first place. No, I have to stop her. But what can I say to make them believe me? The students, hearing this, hesitated again. They just lost their phones that morning and were wary of trusting this strange inner voice that had popped up out of nowhere. Finally, Mark, the class president, couldn't take it anymore and asked me directly, "Ava, where did you wash these apples?" I shook my head. Didn't wash them. A little dirt never hurt anyone. The entire class turned to look at Chloe. Mark decided to call her out. "Chloe, you said these apples were washed in toilet water. Do you have any proof?" Chloe forced a calm expression. "Mark, what are you talking about? I haven't said a word. But once a secret has a crack, it's impossible to keep it from spilling out." "That's a lie. I distinctly heard you say these apples were washed in toilet water." One by one, more students stood up to back Mark's claim. They weren't idiots. This sudden inner voice, who knew if it was real or some kind of trick? Chloe stubbornly refused to admit anything. I'd seen enough. I walked over to Chloe with an apple in my hand. "Come on, guys, we're all classmates." "What voice?" I didn't hear anything. I held the apple out to her. "Here, Chloe, have an apple." She recoiled in terror. "No, get away from me." "Don't worry, they're just from the fruit stand by the school. They're not poisoned. Look, I'll eat one to prove it." Crunch. I took a big bite, chewed, and swallowed. Now, the class was even more convinced the voice was a lie. "See? You're telling me you aren't behind this? If the apples were really washed in toilet water, why would Ava eat one? You were obviously trying to frame her." "That's right. You're just a vicious liar. Unless you eat one too. I'm not buying that the voice wasn't you." The classroom was on the verge of a riot. Chloe hadn't expected to get caught in her own trap. To prove that she wasn't maliciously setting me up, she grabbed an apple with the grim determination of a martyr and took a bite. That afternoon, during the math exam, our entire sophomore class transformed into a blur of frantic dashes to the bathroom. Every single one of us, including me, was doubled over with cramps. Our homeroom teacher was so panicked, he called an ambulance to take us all to the hospital. After the doctors had pumped our stomachs, Chloe finally broke down. She sobbed that she was going to have her billionaire parents come down and teach me, the poisoner, a lesson. I lay on the hospital bed, pale, but feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. In my past life, I was the only one who suffered like this. Now, she finally knew what it felt like. "Chloe," I said weakly, "if I was the one who poisoned the apples, why would I be dumb enough to eat one myself?" She clutched her stomach. "It was you. It had to be you. You're just jealous of my grades and trying to stop me from going to the state competition. Just wait until my parents get here. You're finished." The other students didn't believe I'd poisoned them, but they still held a grudge. After all, I was the one who had handed out the apples. I sincerely apologized to everyone. "Don't worry," I assured them. "I called the cops 2 hours ago. They've already arrested the vendor who sold the poison apples. We'll get to the bottom of this soon." I turned to Chloe. "And you, Chloe, relax. A 680 student like me being jealous of your 650? It doesn't really add up, does it?" The jab made her stomach churn with anger. Then, a look of realization crossed her face. "You called the cops? That poor vendor barely makes any money. His life is hard enough. And you reported him just to shift the blame? Call him back right now, do you hear me?" This time, I didn't even have to say anything. My classmates jumped in. "Yeah, you're right. We only almost died. God forbid that guy loses a day's profit." The apples were brought to the classroom door by our teacher, and Ava handed them out immediately. She had no time to poison them. It had to be the vendor, right? And our teacher wouldn't poison us. Use that 650 scoring brain of yours for a second. Under police questioning, the vendor confessed everything. He said a young female student in a high school uniform had given him the apples for free, telling him to sell them to an old woman with a cane. The vendor thought it was a granddaughter planning a sweet surprise for her grandma, so he sold the whole lot for $1 a pound. He never imagined it was a setup that would nearly kill over 50 students. Led by the police, the vendor came to the hospital to identify the person behind the plot. Chloe buried her head under the covers, playing dead. But the vendor recognized her instantly. It's her. That's the one. The girl with the diamond necklace. I thought she was as kind as she was beautiful. But she's a monster. Chloe trembled with rage, but refused to confess. Where's your proof? How can you prove I told you to poison anyone? The police had checked the security footage. Strangely, it only showed Chloe handing a bag of apples to the vendor without saying a word. The vendor then appeared to take them willingly, even saying he'd help. The key piece of evidence was missing. With the Sterling family's lawyers getting involved, Chloe escaped legal consequences. The poor vendor was forced to pay a hefty fine. But a chill went down the spines of my classmates. They had all experienced the bizarre phenomenon of hearing her thoughts. It's just that nobody would believe them if they told anyone. Eventually, we all recovered and returned to school to finish the rest of our exams. 3 days later, the scores were posted. With a 698, I was firmly in first place. Chloe, who was usually second, had only scored in the 300s, dropping her to the bottom 10 of our class. With these exam results, the principal confidently sent me to the state competition. I didn't disappoint, bringing home a first-place trophy. The school awarded me $5,000. Combined with the $2,000 my grandma and I had saved from collecting recyclables, I finally paid off the hospital bill. My mom could continue her treatment. I went back to school, focusing on my studies. We were about to be juniors, and our teachers were getting serious about our grades. They started analyzing every student's tests, going over mistakes one-on-one. One day, I was dropping off homework in the teacher's office when I heard the math teacher's frustrated voice. How could you get such a simple geometry problem wrong? How many times have I told you to draw an auxiliary line and your trigonometric functions? You've mixed up all the formulas. What were you even thinking about during the test? Chloe had a look of complete indifference on her face, but when she saw me, her expression soured with humiliation. She cut the teacher off mid-lecture. Enough. So I did badly on one test. Do you have to keep harping on it? Back in New York, my tutors were Ivy League grads. Who the hell are you to lecture me? You can't teach, so you blame the student. You're just lazy. You don't deserve to be a teacher. With that, she turned and stormed over to me, spitting out a threat. You just got lucky this time. Next time, I'll be number one. After she left, I quickly poured the math teacher a glass of water, afraid he might have a stroke. From that day on, he never bothered with Chloe again. He didn't even call on her in class. Things were quiet for a few days. Then came the day to collect class funds, just like in my previous life. The class president left the bag with the money in the classroom. By the afternoon, the $2,000 had vanished. Mark was sweating bullets. Who touched my backpack? Everyone shook their heads. He laid down the law. I was gone during last period for gym class. Whoever took the money, if you put it back, I'll pretend this never happened. But if you don't, he warned, don't blame me for calling the cops. The students exchanged nervous glances. Who would do that? Stealing class funds. They deserve to be broke forever. Didn't a senior get expelled for stealing last year? Oh my God, I thought our class was just a little dumb, but basically good. I can't believe we have a thief among us. I'm embarrassed to be in the same class as someone like that. Whoever it is, just give it back. We were all teenagers, and our pride meant everything. The fear of being labeled a thief was terrifying. Just then, Chloe's inner voice rang out once more. Who else could it be? The only one desperate for money in this class is Ava. I literally just saw her rummaging through the class president's backpack. But her family is poor, so it makes sense she'd steal. Maybe I should just cover the loss myself. I just hope she stops bad-mouthing me in front of the teachers. I'm so sick of getting criticized because of her. The expressions on my classmates' faces darkened. On one hand, Chloe had tricked them twice before. On the other hand, it was true that I was the poorest kid in class and had the most motive. Whispers started to spread. I can't believe the top student in our grade is a thief. Even if we tell a teacher, they'll probably just side with her. That's not fair. That's my money. It's our money. We should just take it back. The bell rang. Mr. Henderson, our history teacher, noticed the tense atmosphere and asked what was wrong. Mark had no choice but to explain. Mr. Henderson was furious. Bad grades can be fixed. A bad character means all the education in the world will only create a menace to society. I'm going to find this thief today. So who is it? Are you going to confess? Or am I going to search everyone one by one? Another search? The faces of several students went pale. They had just bought new phones to replace the ones that had been confiscated. One of the boys, terrified, shot up from his seat. I know who stole it. It was Ava. I've seen her and her grandma collecting trash on the street. Who else would be desperate enough to steal that money? Yeah, and Chloe saw her do it. Ask her yourself if you don't believe us, sir. Chloe stood up, feigning reluctance. Mr. Henderson, Ava's family is struggling. It's understandable that she'd take a little money. Maybe we should just let this go. But her thoughts were sharp and cruel. Mr. Henderson is brilliant. He found a thief right away. Too bad Ava's already spent the money. He has no proof. She'll probably turn around on him and get his teaching license revoked. Mr. Henderson was a man who saw the world in black and white. He slammed his lesson planner on my desk. You, a person of your character, doesn't deserve to sit in the front row. Get to the back, next to the trash cans. Trash belongs with trash. And you don't deserve to be the history class representative anymore. From now on, Chloe will have that role. All of you should learn from her. Hearing I was no longer the history rep actually made me a little happy. Teachers always pick the top students for these roles. Except for geography, I was first in every subject, forced to be the rep for English, math, history, and the head of the academic committee. Shedding a responsibility meant more time to study. I stood up, my face bright with excitement. Thank you, sir. I'll move right now. God only knew how much chalk dust I'd inhaled sitting in the front row. The back of the room was much quieter. I never expected this reaction to infuriate Mr. Henderson. What's that supposed to mean? You think I'm wronging you? What's with that smirk? That's right. The money isn't on you now because you've already spent it. 30 years I've been an educator, only to teach a thief. I've failed society. You're going to admit today that you stole that money. 5 minutes had passed since the bell. Arguing would only waste more class time. There were no cameras in the classroom. Anything I said would be useless. I decided to just give in. Yes, I stole it. Are you satisfied, sir? Can we start class now? Our history class is already behind the others. If we don't get started, we'll never finish the book before finals. I quickly hauled my desk to the corner by the trash cans, terrified of wasting any more of my classmates' precious learning time. Mr. Henderson was so angry he was sputtering, but he managed to get through the lesson, fuming the entire time. After class, he wasn't done with me. Where's the money? I want it back today. I was busy passing out worksheets for the next period's English listening practice. Tonight, I said without looking up. I'll have the whole class come with me to my house to get it. Mr. Henderson sneered. Fine. Let's see just how thick your skin is. I'm reporting this to the principal. You can wait to be expelled. On the walk home, Mr. Henderson and the entire class followed me, determined to see me punished. The sunset was beautiful, perfect for memorizing English vocabulary to save time for math prep tomorrow. Hearing me start to recite vocabulary words, my classmates exchanged glances. Chloe scoffed. Well, she's number one for a reason. Look at that focus. Steals money and still hits the books. I pretended not to understand her tone. Thanks for the compliment. Comes with being number one, I guess. Chloe rebuffed, shut her mouth. Soon, I stopped in front of a massive landfill. My classmates were confused. What's this? Are you going to sort through trash to pay us back? No way. You're not expecting us to help you. Are you? How shameless can you be? Mr. Henderson looked like he'd been played. Are you messing with me? He growled. I pointed to a dilapidated shack perched on the edge of the mountain of garbage. I'm home. Everyone's gaze shifted from the towering landfill to the shack, which looked like it could collapse at any moment. This is your home? Mark, the class president, shrieked. They followed me inside. 2 sheets of broken-down cardboard served as beds. Next to them were a few pots and pans. The entire space was smaller than his bathroom at home. Speaking of which, where was the bathroom? Mark couldn't help but ask. I pointed down the street. The public restroom is over there. Mark froze. The public restroom was at least half a mile away. The demand for the money died in his throat. Mr. Henderson's jaw dropped, his conscience and his sense of justice at war. The shack was too small to fit the whole class. They had to take turns coming inside, like tourists visiting a bizarre attraction. But after seeing it, they all fell silent. Just then, my grandma returned, pulling a flatbed cart piled high with recyclables. The junk was stacked 3 or 4 times her height. The old woman strained, her steps heavy, as she pulled a load that weighed 100 times more than her. Seeing the crowd of students, my grandma asked, confused, Ava, what's going on? Before I could speak, Mark clapped a hand over my mouth. We came to visit. Yeah, we're visiting. The other students nodded in agreement. Mr. Henderson's expression was complicated, but he didn't object. It was the first time I'd ever brought friends home. My grandma was so happy, she slapped her thighs. Oh, Ava's friends. I'm so sorry for the poor hospitality. We don't have much of anything, but let me go sell this cart of junk right now. I'll go to the market and buy a fish for you all to eat. At this point, Mark didn't want the money anymore. Seeing the miserable state Ava and her grandma lived in, he would rather pay the difference himself. No, we're not hungry. But my grandma's hospitality was overwhelming. Mark shot a look at the boys in the class. Two of the stronger ones immediately took the cart from my grandma. We'll help you with this. My grandma's eyes filled with tears. Good kids, you're all such good kids. Thank you all for taking care of Ava at school. The students, now labeled good kids, lowered their heads one by one, their hearts filled with guilt. They had no proof Ava was a thief, yet they had all blamed her. Many of them wanted to leave. We should get going, they mumbled. Chloe blocked their path. Don't go. That was your money too. Don't you want it back? One of the girls she stopped snapped back. I've got money to burn, what's it to you? I don't want it back. I'll just pay again. Countless others echoed her. It wasn't that much. We can just pay again. In fact, I forgot to pay this time. Right? Do we even collect class funds? Yeah. When did we ever collect class funds? They went back and forth, and though Mark knew they were lying, he said nothing. Mr. Henderson hadn't uttered a word since he stepped inside. Since they were already here, I pulled them back in. Don't go. Even if you don't want the money, my grandma is a great cook. At least stay for dinner. The student I grabbed felt like she might crumble. She couldn't meet my eyes. I took the opportunity to rummage through our meager belongings and pulled out an old mooncake tin. It was the prettiest box I'd ever found in the landfill. I opened it. Inside was a collection of nickels, dimes, quarters, and $1 and $5 bills. The largest bill was a 10. In front of everyone, I started counting. It all came to $562.90. I thrust the tin into Mark's hands. I'm still short about $1,500. Let me look for more. Mark looked as if he'd been handed a hot potato. He stood frozen. You don't have to. I believe you didn't steal it. Mr. Henderson, trying to save face, gritted his teeth. I'll cover the $2,000. If you have difficulties in the future, just tell me. But don't steal again. I ignored them both and dug another coin-out pile of junk. It still wasn't enough. I had Kevin, one of the jocks, check a rat's nest in the corner. He pulled out a $10 bill. Holding the rodent-gnawed bill, Kevin, the same student who had pointed me out in class, slapped himself twice across the face. I'm an idiot, he mumbled through his shame. What followed was a chaotic scene, like trying to refuse a gift from a relative. I insisted on giving them the money. Mark insisted he wouldn't take it, and Mr. Henderson insisted on sponsoring me. The three of them were at a standoff. Finally, Chloe couldn't stand it anymore. Just because she's poor, she deserves pity. Poverty breeds crime, and wealth fosters virtue. If you let her off this time, what's next? Tax evasion? Murder? You're enabling a criminal. Mr. Henderson was getting annoyed. Then what do you suggest we do? Anyone who isn't blind can see her situation. Where's she gonna get the money to pay it back? Chloe sneered and pointed at a red cloth bundle my grandma kept by her bed. What about that? It's wrapped up so carefully. Must be worth something, right? For all we know, this whole shack is just a prop she set up to get your sympathy. All eyes turned to the red bundle. In the small, dim shack, it stood out. I picked it up and handed it to Mark. Perfect. There's $2,000 in here. Hearing the amount, Chloe pounced as if she'd found her smoking gun. See, what did I tell you? She's faking it. The class funds are right here, and you idiots fell for her sob story. If it weren't for me, you all would have been scammed. Mark opened the bundle. Inside, indeed, were $2,000, neatly stacked and tied with a red string. Mr. Henderson's face was a mask of bitter disappointment. I almost fell for it. Tell me the truth. Where did this money come from? This is your last chance. If you lie, I'm calling the police. I calmly stated the facts. It's the settlement for my father's death. Instantly, all the noise stopped. Mark's hands trembled as he unfolded the documents tucked under the cash, a death certificate and a settlement agreement. When Mr. Henderson saw the cause of death was a car accident, he slammed a fist against his own head. Chloe shrieked. Impossible. What lies are you spinning now? You just go from one story to the next. You poor people are all pathological liars. You'd even kill off your own father for an excuse. Let me tell you, don't think this gets you off the hook. I will not. Before she could finish, Mark cut her off in a harsh voice. That's enough. I lost the class funds myself. He held up the death certificate and settlement papers for the class to see. This $2,000 is not our class money. And from now on, none of you are to ever call Ava a thief again. My classmates were already drowning in regret. They were all young and full of spirit, with an innate desire for order and justice. They might mess around on their phones, but when it mattered, they knew right from wrong. What class funds were collected today? I don't remember. Yeah. Mark, let's just collect them again tomorrow. I'll cover Ava's share. Don't you dare. I'm paying for her. They tripped over each other to offer help, leaving Chloe completely stunned. You're all helping this poor trash lie? You'll regret this, she spat, turning and storming out. The other students started to leave as well, but as they went, they would suddenly drop something on the floor. Oh man, how did $50 get here? One girl said, feigning surprise. Ava, since it's in your house, it must be yours. She stuffed the bill into my hand before I could refuse. Others followed her lead, finding money on the floor. A 50 here, 100 there. My eyes started to burn. I tried to get the money back. The floor doesn't grow money trees. Take your money back. But they all ran off, just like Chloe had, disappearing into the sunset. The road was filled with their fleeting, carefree figures. After everyone else had gone, Kevin, the jock, stayed behind. I'm really sorry. I was the one who accused you. I had secretly brought a new phone to school, since the principal took my last one. If Mr. Henderson found it, my parents would have killed me. I really didn't mean to frame you. It was Chloe's inner voice. Anyway, I'm sorry. Kevin bowed, a full 90 degrees. I was too tired to hold a grudge and just waved him off. The next day, during our homeroom teacher Mr. Davis's English class, he walked over to my usual desk to have me hand out assignments, only to find Chloe sitting there. Where's Ava? He asked, confused. I raised my hand from the back of the room. I'm over here, sir. Mr. Davis hurried to the back corner. What are you doing sitting next to the trash cans? It was a complicated story, so Mark explained what had happened. He emphasized that he had likely misplaced the class funds himself, and that I hadn't taken them. Mr. Davis immediately called Mr. Henderson into the classroom. Do you have any proof that Ava stole the money? Mr. Henderson paled. He had gotten carried away yesterday, after a few words of praise from Chloe. No. Then on what authority did you unilaterally change a student's seat? To a spot next to the trash cans, no less. Mr. Henderson grew defensive. It was Kevin who identified her, and Chloe who witnessed it. Kevin shook his head nervously. No, I was just repeating what Chloe said. If you don't believe me, ask the whole class. We all heard Chloe say it. Chloe knew this, of course, but she also knew they had no proof. Just as she was about to speak, Kevin cut her off. Shut up. I know you're going to say you never opened your mouth. You're right, you didn't. You were just broadcasting your nasty thoughts everywhere. Chloe's face twisted in fury. Just then, Mark sighed. I know it sounds crazy, but I really did hear Chloe say that Ava stole the class funds. Yeah, another student chimed in. She also said Ava was poor and had the most motive. Other students stood up to support them, but Chloe denied it all. This is ridiculous. You're just trying to pin the blame on me for your own mistake in accusing Ava. Go ahead, prove those words came from me. Otherwise, it's slander. Do you really think the police would believe a story like that? The students were stumped. As the argument reached a stalemate, Mr. Davis chuckled. Aren't we trying to find out who took the class funds? When did this turn into a debate on metaphysics? This is simple. We just need to check the security cameras. Mr. Henderson shook his head. But didn't the camera in our classroom break a while ago? Yes, Mr. Davis said with a smile. So, I had a new one installed a few days ago. Forgot to mention it. At his words, Chloe's face turned whiter than chalk. She stood there, dazed, muttering impossible. Soon, the footage was pulled up. Under the watchful eyes of the entire class, a familiar figure snuck over to Mark's desk and took the bag of money. It was someone they all knew, Chloe. No one had suspected her before because her parents were rich. The rumor was her monthly allowance was in the six figures. Why would she care about a couple $1,000s of class funds? When the class returned from the office, fuming, Chloe slammed the money onto Mark's desk. It was just a joke, she said, trying to sound nonchalant. I wasn't going to keep it. You guys are so dramatic. Mark clenched his fists and charged at her. Chloe shrieked and fell out of her chair. But halfway there, Mark stopped, lowered his fist, and said with contempt, I'm just kidding. I wasn't really going to hit you. You're so dramatic. Tears of humiliation welled in Chloe's eyes. You're all ganging up on me. I'm going to have my parents get every single one of you expelled. But Mark wasn't buying it. I've always wondered, he said, why would the daughter of a New York billionaire come to school in some unknown city in the South? It's not a state capital, not even a major economic hub. And since school started, haven't your parents visited? Not even once. Chloe began frantically throwing books at the students around her. Shut up. I am their daughter. I'm just studying here temporarily. I'll go back one day. As soon as I get first place, my parents will come and get me. That last sentence sounded more like she was trying to convince herself. After that, everyone in the class completely isolated her. No one spoke to her, and the teachers, having heard about her confrontation with the math teacher, were also disheartened. They stopped paying attention to her academic performance. Chloe finally quieted down, and her inner voice fell silent. One day after school, I was walking home. As I passed a gaming lounge, a guy with bleach blonde hair called out to me, "Hey nerd, spot me some cash. I'll pay you back tomorrow." That voice, I didn't even have to turn around to know who it was. The same punk who had harassed me in my past life. My feet moved faster than my brain. Before fear could even set in, I was sprinting away. Then I heard a yelp of pain from behind me. "You think you can mess with her? You got a death wish, messing with a student from Northwood High." I turned around to see Kevin holding the punk in a headlock. He saw me and straightened up like a guilty puppy. "Ava, don't worry. I'll teach him a lesson for you." I knew I should say thank you, but what came out was, "Are you skipping school to play video games behind your parents' back again?" Kevin immediately started pleading. "They took my new phone. Please don't tell my parents. I'm begging you." As we were talking, the punk on the ground whimpered, "Bro, please, my leg's gonna break." Kevin let him go with another kick for good measure. "If I ever catch you harassing a Northwood student again, you're done." The punk nodded frantically, promising it would never happen again, and limped away. Seeing how much pull Kevin had, I made a deal with him. I would tell his parents I was tutoring him after school, which would give him the perfect cover to go to the gaming lounge, and in return, he would walk me home. My personal safety was now guaranteed. A week later, I was waiting outside the lounge. Mark and some others were playing basketball across the street. Kevin quickly pulled on a mask and a hat, trying to look inconspicuous. I was about to wave to Mark, but then I remembered Kevin didn't want to be seen. I awkwardly lowered my hand, which probably made it look like I was being held hostage. Just then, Chloe appeared. Seeing me loitering outside a gaming lounge, her inner voice flared up again. "Ava is obviously dating some lowlife from the gaming lounge. Is she trying to get us to come over to be part of whatever weird game they're playing?" So trashy. My classmates, who had been about to move on, heard her thoughts and immediately charged across the street. "Damn punk, you think you can mess with a Northwood student? Let's get him, guys." Chloe was stunned. So was I. She couldn't understand why they heard her thoughts and, instead of believing her, rushed to my rescue. I, on the other hand, was just trying to process what was happening. When I finally snapped out of it, I yelled, "Stop! Don't hit him! That's Kevin. He snuck out to play games, and I'm covering for him." They stopped, and I rushed to help a bruised and battered Kevin to his feet. "Are you okay?" The 6-foot jock buried his face in my shoulder and wailed, "I've been framed." At that exact moment, his parents showed up and caught him. "Framed for what? You deserved it. Sneaking out to play video games." They did a good job. The couple grabbed Kevin by the ear and dragged him away. In the fading light of the sunset, my classmates and I just stared at each other. As the family's voices disappeared around the corner, we all burst out laughing. No one believed the inner voice anymore. The kids I knew only believed in their own sense of justice. From then on, it didn't matter if Chloe spoke with her voice or with her mind. No one paid her any attention. Meanwhile, the principal finally managed to restore the corrupted security footage. He saw Chloe sneaking into the control room late at night to delete the video. He also found chat logs of her buying test answers on a student forum. But he didn't say anything. An hour before the next monthly exam, the principal made a sudden announcement. They were swapping out the test papers. Chloe's triumphant smile froze on her face. "Change the papers? Why? What's wrong with the ones we have?" "You might not think it's a hassle, but I do." Our homeroom teacher shot her a cold look, as if he knew everything. "What kind of hassle could it be for you? The test hasn't started. It doesn't matter which version you take. Besides," he added, "this was the principal's decision. If you have a problem, take it up with his office." Chloe was furious, but powerless. This time, she scored even worse than when she'd had food poisoning, barely breaking 200. At another morning assembly, the principal was once again presenting the award for first place in the grade. I walked onto the stage again. This time, there were no distracting inner voices. After I stepped down, the principal's face turned grim. "And now, I have some very disturbing news to share. After a thorough investigation, it has been determined that student Chloe Sterling has repeatedly brought a cell phone onto campus, purchased answers for the citywide standardized tests on an online forum, and distributed those answers, thereby disrupting the integrity of our examinations. Furthermore, she stole class funds and framed a classmate for the theft. After a vote by the school board, the decision has been made to expel her." The entire school erupted in gasps. No one could believe the girl from the New York social scene could do something so malicious. Chloe panicked. She stormed onto the stage and confronted the principal. "On what grounds? Where's your evidence? Without proof, this is slander. When my parents hear about this, you can kiss your job as principal goodbye. But the principal wasn't like her. He wouldn't make accusations without proof. All the evidence is filed in my office. You're welcome to go see for yourself. As for your parents, if they don't call me, I'll be calling them. I'd love to know how William Sterling raised a daughter like you. Later, Chloe's father arrived at the school. His first words were, "Do whatever you want with her. She's not my daughter anyway. We already found my real daughter." The nanny, Chloe's mother, swapped them at birth. The fact that I didn't send her back to whatever backwater town she came from, that I paid for her education, was an act of extreme charity. Now that she's caused this trouble, she can deal with it herself. Chloe fell to her knees, clinging to Mr. Sterling's pant leg. "Dad, you are my father. Are you really going to abandon me because of that little tramp? You promised. You said if I studied hard, if I fixed my mistakes and got first place, you would take me home." Outside the office door, our entire class was pressed against the window, holding their breath. Chloe was the fake heiress. No wonder she wasn't living it up in New York. Chloe's inner voice was still screaming. It was Annabelle who fell down the stairs on her own. So why am I getting blamed? She's the one who put poison in my milk and bullied me at school. Figure she'd be so scheming, growing up in some poor town. But Mr. Sterling just pushed her hand away. "Don't bother with that mind-reading trick," he warned coldly. "I know what the security footage shows, and I know what your thoughts say. I know which one to believe." He turned to the principal. "My apologies. Does she often make sounds without moving her mouth? Don't believe any of it. They're all lies. My real daughter was nearly tortured to death by her. I fell for it a few times at first. If I hadn't discovered the truth, I never would have believed such a bizarre thing was possible." The principal sighed, a fellow victim. "Tell me about it." I almost believed her, too. Before leaving, Mr. Sterling kicked Chloe off his leg, as if she were a piece of trash. "Telling you I'd take you back if you got first place was just a lie to placate you, to keep you from making a scene. Every time I look at your face, I'm reminded of how that nanny deceived me for over a decade. Take you back? In your dreams." After Mr. Sterling left, the principal tried to call Chloe's biological mother to pick her up, but the phone just rang and rang. As he was wondering what to do, I opened the office door. "Principal," I said, "since Chloe has this special ability to broadcast her thoughts, why not turn her over to the government? I'm sure they'd be interested in someone with such a rare talent." 3 days later, Chloe Sterling, along with all records of her time at our school, vanished from public view. A year later, I graduated as the top student in the state. The school went all out, hanging congratulatory banners everywhere. My homeroom teacher paid for my graduation party out of his own pocket. At the party, I raised my glass to my classmates. "Thank you," I said, "for ignoring the noise and choosing to believe in me. I hope that no matter how loud the world gets, we can all hold on to what we know is right and carve out our own paths." My classmates stood up, raising their glasses in return. Let the noise be noise. We know what's right in our hearts. To a future that's big, bright, and brilliant.